In this unit, we look at the noun classification systems available in many of the Indian languages. In terms of language family, it is possible to say that most of the Indian Aryan languages, barring the Eastern subgroup, are predominantly noun classifier languages. Dravidian languages could be either classified as either noun class with two simple classes or vestigial noun class in character, although there does exist one noun classifier language in the group Malto. Tibeto-Burman languages family is extremely difficult to make generalizations about, as some subgroups show noun classifier property and some don't. Austroasiatic languages are predominantly noun classifier languages. There are a number of issues that arise in the description and theoretical understanding of what these systems are when we look at the languages family. So let's look at first numeral classifier languages and look at some of the issues in the description and analysis of these languages. First of all, the cardinality of numeral classifier systems and word order in the noun phrase is an interesting area of research. Across the language family, there are languages with very small numeral classifier systems, just one, as a language like Maghi, one or two depending on your analysis of Go and To, Bangla with half a dozen, as well as Tibeto-Burman ones like Karbi, which have an extremely elaborate system. So consider the classifiers in Karbi, and this is a partial list. Actually, the number of classifiers is more. So classifiers, the language has a numeral classifier for animates, for branches, for burning things, for cloud, meat, distinct classifier for cots, house and vehicles, distinct classifier for cover, distinct classifiers for eggs and egg and a particular kind of bamboo, for field, for flat objects, for flowers, for fruit, also includes bird, a distinct classifier for human and God, different classifier for kind. Interestingly, in this language, the order varies depending on what is the cardinality of the numeral used. When the numeral is 1, the order you get is noun, numeral, classifier. When the classifier is 2, then you get the order noun, classifier, numeral. The reason why classifier systems vary so much in size is not really understood at all. Neither is the range of feature values that both large and small systems may take. For example, humanness or animacy, which one would expect just on grounds of cognitive salience to be a typologically constant feature, is not so. As languages like Tagin and Mizo do not use this as a classifying parameter at all. Similarly, languages may have count classifiers but lack count massifiers altogether. For example, Tani, which lacks any massifiers for mass nouns. Okay. Similarly, the understanding as to the fact that different cardinalities of numerals can lead to different orders in the noun phrase is also poorly understood. A similar sensitivity to the cardinality of the numeral is found in Malto, the sole Dravidian language that has numeral classifiers. Here the distinction is not between 1 and 2 as it was in Karbi, but it is between 1, 2 on one hand and numerals above 3. With numerals above 3 in Malto, the order is numeral classifier noun across classes, such as Tini Jan Maler, 3 men, Tini Mak Oidu, 3 cows. However, with numerals 1 and 2, the order is noun classifier, numeral noun. But only for non-human nouns, as in one cow. In the Austroasiatic language Khasi, which is on the Khmer group, classifiers surface with numerals above 2, as the work of Tempson suggests. So, for example, when you say two men are ki khinna, the order is numeral classifier, and then plural prefix on the noun human to mean two men. However, when you say one, the order is the numeral 1 precedes the noun phrase, and you get masculine singular. U is masculine singular, Wei is 1, and U khinna. So before the numerals of 2, after the numeral classifier only surfaces with numerals larger than 2. In other cases, the noun phrase is unmarked for classifier. Okay. There's no distinction between human and non-human classifiers in this, both follow this order. This same sensitivity is shown even in the Indo-Aryan languages like Bangla, in the limited context of the postposing of the numeral classifier system to the right of the noun. So in Bangla you can say duto kham as well as kham duto. However, this order can only arise when for numerals less than 2 or less than 3. This is not possible for most speakers in the numerals like greater than 2. For example, you can say kham duto, but you can't say kham shatta. That is, you can't say 7 envelopes. Envelope 7 is the order, but you can say envelopes 2. Another issue with regards to numeral classifier system is, and this is more common than perhaps we understand at this point, that there is the existence of what we will call reduplicated classifiers or pseudo classifiers. If you look at the language of Tani language Tagin, it appears to have a very elaborate classifier system with almost as many classifiers as there are noun. In fact, in this language, its numeral classifier system could be divided into 2 groups. The first is a small subclass of basic classifiers based on shape, size and function, and they number about 15 to 20. The second group is a very large set of pseudo classifiers that are lexeme rather than class specific. What these pseudo classifiers are the reduplicate ultimate syllables of noun roots, which are then prefixed to numerals. So for example, consider the basic classifiers, where there is a distribution on broadly semantic criteria. The numeral classifier bore is used with flat, broad objects which include cloths, leaves, pages, carpets, firewood. The numeral classifier ch is used with round, small objects with star, seed, coin, words, ants, etc. The numeral classifier dar is used with long, narrow objects, roads, batons, firewood, pans, etc. The numeral classifier so is used with long cylindrical objects which include rope and vehicles and grass and snakes, and the numeral classifier ta is used with 2-dimensional objects like photos, boards, mirrors, letters, etc. In all these cases, you have the order numeral, you have the order noun, numeral and classifier. And also in that same order you find a whole list which is really based on lexemes. So you have for cows, the term is, the word for cow is se, the classifier is he. The word for breast is achu, the classifier is chu. The word for baskets is ebar, the classifier is bar. The classifier for fingers is based similarly on the reduplication of the last syllable of the word for fingers is lakchin, the classifier is ching. The word for evening is aryum, its classifier is ryum. These classifiers, reduplicated classifiers, are found in many of the languages of Arunachal Pradesh. For example, besides Tagin, there is also Galo. They are also found in Malto, where you can see this pattern, but they are largely frozen forms, and in Mizo, which is fairly productive. Such a phenomenon is actually poorly understood in theoretical and descriptive terms. Besides these descriptive issues on understanding the size and cardinality and range of numeral classifier system, the role of and the connection of number morphology to the to having a numeral classifier system is also not very well understood and represents a very good area of research. The basic fact seems to be this, that numeral classifier languages do not generally have number morphology, and agreement for this, certainly for number morphology, certainly does not happen at the sentential level in these languages. This has led linguists by and large to conclude that having the grammatical category number and having the grammatical feature category noun numeral classifier were in complementary distribution. However, as Ching and Sivisma have argued, then we would expect that the same sort of classifiers should be used with mass or kind and count nouns, and for mass nouns to be used with numeral in these languages. However, this is not the case. So, Cheng and Sivisma argue that to say that number morphology or having the grammatical feature is of number bleeds having a numeral classifier language, and similarly a numeral classifier language does not have number morphology is definitely incorrect. Well studied numeral classifier languages like Japanese, Korean and Chinese have also Bangla perhaps have further complicated the terrain, as they all ask questions of the conclusion that number and numeral classifier systems are incompatible. Okay. One way out of this decision, because one way out of this confusion rather, is that what we need to understand is that the mass or count distinction is not based on the type of things that different nouns refer to. Consider a scenario in which we have 7 chairs in a room. We can describe them as seeing either chairs, that is, we can see them as count, or we can see them as furniture, which is to see them as mass. In fact, as Kierkegaard points out, the mass count distinction is independent of the structure of matter for 3 reasons. 1. Entities that come in natural units of equal perceptual salience may differ in a single language as to whether they are mass or count. For example, rice is mass while lentils is count. Within a single language, there are pairs of synonyms where one of the pair is count and the other is mass. So you can say shoes, footwear, coins, change, carpets, carpeting, hair, hairs, rope, ropes, stones, stones. 3 languages differ in their treatment of the same perceptual entity as count or mass. For example, in Hindi, dal is mass, but English lentils is count. So while it may seem at first that mass noun refers to entities that cannot be individuated and must refer to homogeneous cumulative entities, this is not actually true for the entire class of mass nouns. A mass noun like furniture or cutlery has perceptually salient individuals in it. Nevertheless, it is impossible to say A has 3 features. This leads Rothstein to argue that even as we may have conceptual perceptual ability to perceive individuation in the entity being referred to, we cannot use grammatical counting to describe that individuation. Rather, Rothstein concludes that the mass count distinction can only be explained in terms of how expressions refer, not in terms of things they refer to. Boldly stated, what we are saying is just as mass nouns in English cannot be counted directly and need a measure phrase, nouns in numeral classifier languages cannot and need the mediation of a numeral classifier to provide the measure of counting. This view takes the basic assumption that in numeral classifier languages, all nouns are kind referring. In Rothstein's analysis, the grammatical category number and the grammatical category numeral classifier are the 2 ways that operation of grammatical counting turns these kind referring at the base nouns into count nouns, by first turning them into singular count nouns. Grammatical pluralization marked by the plural morpheme is argued to be a later operation that operates on these derived count denotations. So the difference between having the grammatical function number and numeral classifier languages is that while in languages with the category number, the operation that derives singular nouns is implicit, in numeral classifier language it is rendered explicit by the classifiers. So thus count classifiers and massifiers both introduce units of measure, except that count classifiers use naturally atomic units of measure. In the Kierkegaard-Rothstein analysis, number and numeral classifier and complementary distribution, the basic intuitions do not prescribe the co-occurrence of both features, as a language may have more than one strategy to convert kind referring terms to count nouns. The possibility of number existing along with numeral classifier system would be perhaps best realized in the in Bangla Gulo, which is claimed to be a plural classifier which turns kind denoting bare nominals to predicates of non-atomic object level individuals. In the system that we have looked at thus far, in the conception of the system, noun class, noun classifier and numeral classifier are mutually exclusive systems. However, the case that we are making from looking at Indian languages here that these 3 are not. A case in point is the language Khasi, which has both noun class and numeral classifier and noun classification systems running in parallel. Noun classification in Khasi works with the division of nouns into masculine and feminine. Numeral classifiers occur with numerals from above 1, that is 2 and above, by occurring adjacent to the numeral. That Khasi is a language that is indeed noun class, can be confirmed from early work by Rabel Hyman, who provides exhaustive semantic criteria to distinguish the nouns that prefix u and ka. The Khasi system is then, though, is both a noun class system as well as a numeral classifier system.